I liked what you said, that you can help someone awaken to their soul purpose.
Yes, yes, that's my catchphrase.
So how do
awaken your soul.
So the things that you learned, how do you apply it? Now, how does somebody apply it at home? You were telling me some of the ailments that some people come to you for.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's not uncommon for people to come because they feel lack of direction. They want a bit more of a spiritual aspect to their life. But
so
also,
you can awaken their spirituality.
You can, yes,
okay.
you can. If they're ready for that, you can. But you can also help them with general depression or stress or other factors in their life, illness, and generally to feel more confident about their life and have better balance. So that's definitely something you can do. But obviously the training courses that I best love offering are where you're actually teaching people to be able to instill that in others and to help them awaken some of their own extra 355 senses.
So you teach healers how to heal better.
Yes, well, I wouldn't say better because that's a comparative term, but to extend their healing potential by opening up new awareness in them. I'm really just showing people how to soften their focus and look beyond the obvious.
For instance, she was telling me some of your clients, like you had a woman that she gets glimpses.
Yes,
you say you get glimpses of people that just come to her about past lives.
Yes, well, I mean, if you don't believe in reincarnation, you obviously wouldn't believe they're a past life, but that's a discussion point, isn't it, whether they really are or not. But what's interesting is I get what I call a glimpse because it's a momentary snapshot of someone in a different setting wearing different clothes, maybe even a different gender sometimes, and I freeze that image. And then I go back into it and extend it and expand it out so that I can sort of see the whole scenario that it came from. And invariably it does have some relevance to a situation that they're in at the moment, so it can help them see the pattern that they're stuck in. And sometimes it can help them get out of that pattern because they can blame what's been going wrong in their life to something that's an outside cause which can be changed, you know. So that's very powerful for people's subconscious to be able to identify a cause and a solution.
Right. For instance, you were telling me about the women who you saw lead troops in the Middle Ages.
Yes, I saw.
Would you share that with them?
I in the middle of a healing session with a lady who was from Eastern Europe. I don't know if it was Poland or Romania, somewhere around there. And she was actually an oil rig engineer, which is a really rare job for a woman in England, you know. And she was telling me that in her own culture and country, 50% of the people training for that job are women. So it wasn't unusual for her. So I'd perceived that she would be really quite at home with a company of men and, you know, able to behave with authority in other situations. But when I was working with her in the healing session, I saw her in full armour, still a woman.
Seriously?
Yeah,
you
full
saw
armour.
her?
Just momentary glimpse of her riding at the front of a, you know, battalion of officers or whatever. It's probably the wrong word for people who are riding. But anyway, she was leading people into battle, and she looked completely fearless and in control of the situation. And I told her about it, and I didn't really think that much about it at the time. But subsequently, she contacted me to say that ever since I'd told her that I'd seen her in that way, she'd gone into meetings with a totally different opinion of herself because she'd felt really empowered by it. And instead of going into a room full of people and feeling intimidated and overwhelmed by their presence, she could go in and imagine herself as a leader in battle and just be ready to, you know, cope with whatever situation arose with dignity.
Well, that image is something we could all take.
Yeah, exactly.
We could all take.
But I wouldn't see everybody in that situation.
So does it just pop into you, like when we're sitting here, or if you were saying that sometimes it's all you have to do is get an email from somebody?
Oh yeah, no, it can happen. It can happen in the pub.
What
it can
a gift, honey.
But you have to switch it off most of the time because it'd be overwhelming. But what somebody said to me once, isn't that awful, because you go into a pub and you're seeing all these different people in different ways? And I've said, well, it doesn't work like that, because any of us can go into a do you know what a pub is?
Yes, we know. Yes, I know what a pub is. I've been in many pubs. Yes.
I
used to be married to a
Oh, you
yes,
were
yes.
indeed, yeah. But go into any sort of restaurant or any sort of situation with the crowd, and you aren't overwhelmed by what you can see because you don't tune into it. You choose to. It's a switch you can put on in the same way as you could go into a room and there'd be 100 conversations.
Yes.
You wouldn't be hearing them all, would you? You'd have to stop and tune into one, and then you'd understand it and hear it. But it would just be background chatter otherwise.
So let me ask, you were also telling me that sometimes the things that we have going on in our life now are because somehow maybe we have taken a vow in another lifetime?
Well, I mean, it's a concept, but it's a concept that really has helped some people shift out of a stuck pattern. Yeah, I mean, there are people who just feel in their life they've never been able to get success with finances, say, or perhaps their relationships have never worked, or they are uncomfortable in a situation where there's a lot of noise going on, and then we can perceive that maybe their pattern has been caused by a past life vow they made to poverty. You know, if they were a nun or a monk in another life where possessions weren't encouraged, they might actually feel on a subconscious level guilty in this life for having wealth and riches. Or, you know, their relationships might be going wrong because they took a vow to chastity and they feel guilty about having a relationship, you know.
So
they just...
relationships are so complicated, even in a past life.
No, that's so true, yeah. But if the idea is that if you can accept the possibility that might be an explanation, then we can go through a process which negates that in your programming and enables you to start the next day or even later that day with a fresh attitude. And that might be all it is. I'm not saying that we're genuinely resolving any vows. I really don't know. But it works for people to give them a reason to shift their perspective and, you know, have a different attitude to life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because we were going through that earlier, you were telling me, and she actually has a script that you can find on your website to help you go through, and if you have something like that, you can release vows that perhaps you've made to yourself in another lifetime, unbeknownst to you now.
Well, some people have made them in this lifetime. I mean, if they've made, obviously, if they've made a vow at marriage to be obedient to their husband and then they get divorced, that's still a vow. Yes. Not everybody agrees to take it these days. It's going out of fashion. But there are still people there who, on some level, feel guilty about the fact that they made that vow and now they're not abiding by it. So you can be free. You can be liberated from that closed perspective.